Today, we're going over the $1 Million Baby Strategy. It's a revolutionary new way for families to think about leaving a legacy to your children, your grandchildren, your nieces, your nephews, or any of the children in your life you care so much about. The $1 Million Baby Strategy was introduced in the best-selling book called HowMoneyWorks, Stop Being a Sucker. It's the first financial education book that anyone at any age and any learning level can enjoy and benefit from. People ages 10 to 100 and everyone in between. Speaking of the number 100, the book's now been featured on over 100 prominent TV shows, including CNBC, CBS, ABC, Fox, and CTVNews. Also, it's received a rare endorsement by the Heartland Institute of Financial Education. And of course, it's all over the web. So follow HowMoneyWorks on Instagram for weekly tips and practical ideas. All of this is part of an exciting mission to make the knowledge of how money works. It's that critical life skill that's not taught in schools. We make this accessible to every family and every parent, which brings us to our topic today. If there's about to be a new little one in your life, regardless of whether it's your child or grandchild, niece or nephew, you always want that child to have it better than you. That's natural. The example you're going to see today is an example of how to reimagine how parents and families can leave a legacy for their kids. It's a strategy that applies the power of compound interest and the time value of money in a way that makes the traditional end-of-life wealth transfer seem old-fashioned and unnecessary. We call it $1 Million Baby. Think about it as one of the greatest gifts you can give a child, a future. $1 Million Baby is a common sense strategy that empowers families to create a legacy for their children without having to be wealthy. Would you have guessed that only 20% of children will receive an inheritance? It's probably even lower now that so many people have faced the challenges of 2020. In light of this sad statistic and our present reality, it's time to completely rethink how parents leave a legacy. If you want to give your children $1 million at their retirement, which of these two options is more likely? You either give them each $1 million in cash when they're adults and you've saved enough, or you develop a plan to save a fraction of that amount for each child when they're young. We know it's hard for retirement age parents to preserve an inheritance for adult children. With seniors living longer, almost all their savings may be required to cover decades of expenses, including medical bills and long-term care. This new reality of longevity can remove the possibility of leaving an inheritance the old way. Since it's so hard to leave an inheritance today, why not use the greatest financial asset your child has? Time. They have an entire life of it. What could the power of compounding do for your child over 67 years? Let's take a look. $1 Million Baby leverages three simple money concepts: the power of compound interest, the time value of money, and wealth protection. This is one of my favorite quotes. Nelson Henderson said, "The true meaning of life is to plant trees under whose shade you do not expect to sit." So, could you use the money principles you've learned today to save $1 million for your child or grandchild? It's easier than you think. The following examples are simply used to illustrate how this can work. You really do need to consult with a financial professional to see how this will work for you. In this example, Dana puts $13,000 aside once and leaves it there from her daughter's birth until her daughter turns 67, and it grows at 6.5% to a little over $1 million. If Dana waits until her daughter graduates from high school, her daughter only receives about $300,000 when she turns 67. What a difference 18 years can make. Hector doesn't have $13,000 sitting around, but he still wants his son to retire with $1 million. So he and his relatives can work together to save just $2,500 now, and then just $250 each month for the next 4 years. Then, like magic, they'll hit the goal too. His son also retires with $1 million waiting for him. And if Hector waits until his son turns 18 years old, it's the same story as if Dana had waited, much less. little over $300,000 again. We're developing a calculator that will allow you to play with the numbers to see what it might look like. In the meantime, your financial professional can help you decide. 250 children are born every minute that could live a different life if their parents or grandparents did this for them when they were young. So now you see why we call this strategy $1 Million Baby. How appreciative would your kids be one day, perhaps even when you're gone, that their parents thought about their future, knew how money works, and acted to take care of them. That's a big thank you that could change your legacy forever. Sucker-minded people leave it all to chance. They may not consciously think about it, but they're embracing a notion that sounds something like this. I hate to say it, but my kids will probably have to fend for themselves. They'll be lucky I don't end up moving into their basement. The wealthy-minded think radically different. They realize what a dream come true it would be to give their children a financial advantage their kids could count on for the future. Their mindset sounds more like this. If there's an affordable way to set up my kids to be taken care of in their later years, my family and I will get it done. Suckers resolve to accept limitations. They don't know any other possibility. The wealthy, on the other hand, use the empowerment of education to do so much more for their families. It's all a matter of knowing how money works and acting when the children are young. So this brings us to the end of our presentation. And now you know an entirely new way to think about leaving a legacy for the children in your life. Instead of feeling regret at the end of our lives at how little we have to give, we only need to give a little at the beginning of their lives. And one day down the road, no matter how many mistakes were made along the way, they will marvel at how much you were able to provide. I invite you to get together with your financial professional right away. Don't let another week go by. There's so many options and possibilities, no matter where you are with your personal finances, to put the $1 Million Baby strategy in place for your kids. A meeting can be scheduled right after today's presentation. Thank you for attending. We hope to see you on the next video.